Good morning, everyone. I am just getting stuff started and announcing the stream on Twitter. It's been an interesting morning here. Oh man, yeah, still working out some of the quirks in this setup. I thought I was just going to announce the stream really quickly on this machine, but of course the computer that I have the chat and all that on wasn't logged into Twitter, so yep. Morning, everyone. All right, let's get the cameras started. Let's see, do we have Tuco today? Hey, kitty. He's in a nap time sort of mood. All right, we got some coffee, we got Tuco Cam, got the recordings all rolling again. Let's check out the DSLR, see if it's in good condition here. Hi, everyone. So we'll wake up the camera and format a fresh flash card for today. Not a flash card. Sometimes I have to unplug the HDMI from the camera and then plug it back in. It's kind of weird. Wake up camera. Oh, the camera doesn't produce any video if it doesn't have a SD card, so here I got it. Having some audio sync problems. Let me check the audio really quick just to see if this is coming through all right. Check. All right, I think the audio that the streaming machine is getting is correct, so if you're having sync problems, it's possible it's client side, but let me know if everyone's having issues. Oops. Oh, can we get a better view of Tuco? All right, well, welcome back, everyone. Okay, yeah, I guess we're getting some requests that are, a couple of people are saying the audio is way off. So maybe I will just, before we get too deep into this, really quickly stop and restart the stream. And I think this might pick up where it left off, but if you have... All right, we should be streaming again. Streaming again, and the audio seems to be coming through. So yeah, hopefully that wasn't too disruptive. Let me know in the chat if that seemed to fix anything, or if I just broke the entire world. Do we have remote? We don't have remote. Now we've got remote. All right. Hopefully that was our glitch for the mission. This one should be pretty straightforward, actually. This was kind of a quick stream that I did on Friday. So yeah, Friday evening. That's still on my mind a little bit. Well, I mean, I had a pretty good Friday. I had a relaxing stream and then hung out with a friend, and that was nice. But pretty close by to here in Oakland, there was a pretty massive fire that killed, it turns out, a lot of people. And I don't think there were any. I don't think anybody I knew was among those hurt or killed. But it's still been on my mind just because it's one of those kind of close to home things. You know, I've been like in and around places like that for a while, and there's a lot of good and a lot of kind of sketchiness that comes out of situations like that. But it's really, I don't know. The place I lived in right before I found this place was a little bit more like that. It was kind of a like still a warehouse, but whereas this is like a pretty legit warehouse that they've actually kind of kept up to code, and it's actually zoned to live and work, thankfully. I've in the past, and a lot of friends of mine in the past, and have lived in these places that are, as safe as you can make them, but you try not to get the inspectors to come by because they aren't really intended to be living spaces. And so I can imagine, there's a lot of ways that can go badly, and yeah, so a lot of feelings around that. A lot of things are complicated. Okay, that's interesting. Some people are saying that the audio is still like seconds out of sync even after restarting OBS. So that's super weird. I don't know what would even have that kind of a buffer. I'm just going to quickly make sure I didn't set something up super weird in Ableton, but if that was the case, I would hear it on the headphones. Okay, well, actually, that's a good point. I didn't actually restart OBS. I just stopped and started the stream, so maybe I'll actually restart the application. So bear. All right, I think we're coming back. We're coming back. We're on our way back. Let's see what the app says. So this time I just restarted the entire OBS app. Yeah, it looks like YouTube is telling me that the stream is better. Yeah, so I think the problem was I just had OBS running for a while, and there must be some like long-running thing where if you leave it on for a while, some buffer gets fuller than it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna have to make it a habit to restart OBS before each stream, because I often have it running when I'm not streaming just so that I can get a view of all the inputs. Anyway, enough waffling. Let's get back to what we were doing. So Friday night, this was a kind of quick stream that I did to kind of take a break from the more complicated stuff that's been, where it's like this is this whole big production we're doing for this one thing that's going to be like 5 seconds in a video that you won't see for a couple months. And I just wanted to do something that was a little more straightforward and put together a kit. And I'm way behind on putting together these BoldPort kits because I've been trying to do them in order and make video, or at least record video for all of them, so I can make videos about them. And so this is actually the third kit in the series that is now up to, I think, like 8. I should have checked before this video, but and it's the Cordwood puzzle. And the puzzle aspect of it was really fun. The last stream, I kind of went through trying to figure out where everything is supposed to go just based on the design, which was fun. And that's all put together in kind of this half-assembled state, and in this stream, I'm just going to take the rest of the footage for kind of doing the rest of the soldering and kind of cleaning it up a little bit. And as for, I was thinking about kind of what else to do with this, because when it's complete, it'll be this thing that's kind of an interesting display piece, and it'll light up when you power it, but you can also use it as a logic-controlled display, because these pins over here act as logic inputs to turn the LEDs on and off. So there's a lot of interesting things. Like I started kind of daydreaming about these setups where, I imagine something with, let me roll this camera actually. Did I clear this? No, I got distracted and didn't format the camera. All right, let's roll this. Yeah, so I was imagining things where, like this, it seems like it'd be really cool in some kind of like little like vertical like tower setup where maybe, like imagine something where maybe there's like a 3D printed inverse of this shape where it has 2 slots that mechanically hold the board, and it has a little female header that provides power, and that kind of slots in and kind of holds it up like that. And then maybe there are maybe there's like a hexagon below here with additional headers, and then 6 little fly wires connecting them up here, and then in the base there could be like a microcontroller. Because I can imagine this would be an interesting, I think I was just saying at the beginning of last stream that I was frustrated that I don't have an easy way of just checking the status on all my recording things without going over to the other screen, and I can almost imagine this being something I keep at the recording desk over here and have it get statuses over Wi-Fi. So anyway, let's put this together and watch it go, because these are beautiful LEDs and I'm looking forward to seeing them lit. Oh yeah, I'm glad the cat cam is working. Oh, there's a question in chat from Carlos about what kind of music I like when I'm reverse engineering, and I think it really depends on my mood, but I really like kind of I don't know, kind of weird electronic-y, drony stuff, stuff that has like, I don't know, for lack of a better way of describing it, I like stuff that kind of feels like a good source of clock references for my brain, like different things that run at different frequencies that I can kind of choose between, something that matches my mood in that way. All right, let's find some good angles. I think this is going to be, let's see, we were doing, that's right, this is where we were in the last stream. So the last stream I was working on this side, and let me switch to the microscope because that's what will show this detail the best right now. Wake up microscope. Oh, I hope I didn't actually, cool. This remote that I'm using is just like a generic like presentation remote, which is fine, but like I haven't been able to like bind these keys directly to functions in Open Broadcaster so far. So mostly it just means that I have to remember to leave the keyboard focus in the thing with the scenes in order to use this for up and down arrows. Can I get a zoom in view of the cat at all? Hey kitty. This cable is so... I think that's the best view I can get for the moment. The wire on that camera isn't super long. Alright, so I think in the last stream I had just finished kind of tacking down these top resistors in order to get them positioned equidistantly from the two boards. So one side here is soldered, and I think I was going to solder the other side after making sure that they were straightened, and I think I had done that part. Like, I think I had obsessed over the straightness of these as much as I cared to. So I think these are ready to be tacked down on the other side, and then, kind of trimmed and soldered more fully, and then just do the same thing on the other side of the board. So yeah, it looks like that's where we are. Oh yeah, there's another good comment in the chat that having little like separate buttons would be nice. Yeah, and actually specifically there's something that Adafruit has called Easy Keys, which I haven't actually heard of. I'll be sure to check that out. I've thought of doing something like that, like using a Teensy with HID, or like something with Bluetooth LE. And maybe I will do that because the remote is fine. Like, the remote's all right, but part of the problem I have with this is I also keep like putting it in different places, and actually maybe what I want is just something that I can magnetically attach like under the desk here that just is always in the same place. And I can kind of do that with this, but it's, I don't know, maybe I can remember to do that. It's just ergonomically really weird, I guess, to do that with these up-down arrows that are now like to the left and right and are underneath. So yeah, maybe that'll be a good DIY project, like something with a bunch of buttons for switching inputs. Ah, the coffee is good. Oh, and there's a question if I'm going to solder, if I'm going to do something else with soldering after this. So right now, I think my plan for today is to finish this one, and there's so much I could do to kind of extend it, like kind of that sculpture thing I was talking about. But I think I'm going to try to focus. I'm terrible at focusing, but I still want to make progress on the video series on the Wacom tablet hacking, which is currently what the next step in doing that is this kind of face dancer USB hacking. So I'm going to try to do that stream after this, and then maybe a short intermission. I'll do a second stream about USB and face dancer and Python. Oh, let's also have some light. I don't have any light right now on this. Oh man, this color temperature is so not the same as anything else. Maybe I won't use this light for now. That light is super nice when I need the extra contrast, but it kind of clashes with the color temperatures. Make that less bright. That's fine. The lighting is more forgiving when the sun is up here. There are so many windows that a lot of sunlight gets in. Oops. I was so paying attention to whether my camera was recording that I didn't notice the joint didn't actually complete. Yeah, it does actually make me kind of nostalgic for having like big red blinking lights on stuff. I have all these like kind of hazy childhood memories of trying to make electronic-y things that like, I don't know, it's like, you know those kids, they're like these kids' toys that are like pretend kitchens. And actually I had something like that as a kid. It was sort of, I don't know, I didn't have a lot of like traditional toys necessarily. I was into kind of weird stuff, but I did at one point have one of these like little kitchen sets with the like, you know, I can make my dad breakfast on it or something. And I did that. He was like, I want beef stroganoff. And I had no idea what that was, so I put like a plastic hot dog in the plastic frying pan and pretended to cook it and then gave it to him. But I remember having experiences like that with electronics as a kid. And like, you know, I would find bits of electronic parts in places and like, you know, cut them apart and glue them together and just do these ridiculous things and, you know, make like time travel helmets or video cameras. And so I remember making a video camera that consisted of, I think it had the blinking red LED. It was some kind of blinking LED circuit that I probably found or made. And then the video camera bit was a little like really old school solar panel just connected right to like a 75 ohm like RF kind of coax connector. And then I would just plug that into the TV and look really, really closely at the static. I was like, it's working, it's working. It's like a homeopathic video camera. I mean, I didn't know what that was at the time, but. All right, let's trim these and then give them proper soldering jobs. Oh, yeah, good comment in chat that the iron is a little low. It's set to 700 Fahrenheit, which might be a little low, especially for these big resistors. I'll bump it up a tiny bit. It also might just be not kind of fully saturated with heat since it hasn't been on for that long, but I don't know. These like wire cutting under the microscope shots are totally unnecessary, but I find them entertaining. Actually, one of the things that keeps coming back to my mind after that, kind of still in reference to the fire that happened around here on Friday night. You know, I had some kind of people that I'm not really close with trying to get in contact with me to see if I was involved, you know, if I was hurt or killed. And it's sort of, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it, because it's like, in some cases it's really nice, you know, if it's somebody who I mostly have, you know, like, so I had somebody that I knew from the East Coast contact me, and that was nice, you know, it was somebody I hadn't heard from. But then I had that like random bit of contact from my brother, who I've been kind of intentionally not speaking with for quite a while at this point. And it's just this thing where, you know, if he actually wanted to know like anything about my life, there's so many ways to find out, but he doesn't really seem to reach out unless he's having some kind of emotional response. So, I don't know. Family's hard. Cats are much better. Alright, got those trimmed. Now let's put some more solder on. I am currently not using the vise to hold this. I wonder if it would fit in the vise. Yeah, this might fit long ways. That'd be nice. Man, expectations are so weird. Some people, like, they you know, something is electronics related and they want it to be like hardcore, you know, like, this is super complicated and it's full of chips and look at all these DSPs I'm programming, and then you try to make something that's more like, but then that like turns off a lot of people, because it's like, oh, where do I even start? And then you make something that's more like, you know, kind of happy little clouds, and and then some people are complaining about that. So it's almost like, you know, this is yet another way that the community kind of subdivides. And I like to, I don't know, I like spaces that have kind of a mixture of those things, like kind of artsy circuits, but also stuff that's pretty in-depth. You know, being able to appreciate stuff that isn't super complicated while also being able to go in-depth when you want. I like that kind of stuff. That's one thing that I really like about, there's this journal, POC or GTFO, that I recommend. I've published a few articles in it, but you know, even before I got that opportunity, I totally would have recommended it to you as a pretty awesome publication. Just, it's very kind of to the point. You know, it's like, don't just like fill our pages with bullshit. Just pick something simple and give us an awesome demonstration of that, and make it as accessible as possible. You know, don't just like fill it with kind of unnecessary kind of pretense. And so I like that approach. Kind of wish more education institutes were more like that. There's just such a pressure to kind of produce this this kind of academically flavored output when you're in academics. And it can even be kind of fun to do that. Like, I admit, it's been, you know, I've written some papers that really get into that mood and kind of take the academic language and culture super seriously, and, you know, it's fine. It's just another mode of talking, but it's frustrating when that becomes this signifier where, you know, if you don't do this, then nobody takes you seriously, because there's, you know, it's like there's not a great way to actually tell if someone's research is good without doing the work of evaluating it, and so people have all these shortcuts where they don't want to have to do that work unless it looks like the person has a chance, and so they take all these shortcuts. I think that's all the resistors on that side. So this is definitely easier with the vise. I think last time I was using little bits of putty to stick it, or like this, what is this called? Like blue tack or something? Sticking that to the work surface. This isn't going to focus, is it? All right, enough playing with that. I don't think I'm quite keeping up with all the chat here, but I'll try. Cool. More soldering. Hey, Tuco, you're so far away. See, he has this extra incentive to hang out near me when I'm streaming in the evenings, and he can also hang out near the heater. But right now it's not cold because the sun's up. Didn't necessarily want that to be spiky. I wonder what these large, what is this, like 6mm? Like what these are usually sold for nowadays? Because even in stuff, you know, that I would normally think of as being, you know, like signage applications, like traffic lights and stuff, even in those I tend to see 5mm LEDs. I guess some of those like shop signs that, you know, like the ones that say open, use LEDs like this. Yeah, all right. Let's check that out in the SLR. All right, I was just in the process of almost misplacing the remote. There it is. Yeah, I mean, there are probably other ways to assemble this. I was trying not to cheat and look at, you know, photos and documentation or anything, because based on the way the kit was packaged, it seemed like that was, it seemed like that would be more fun to just figure it out. And I think I'm going to be happy with this. You know, I didn't want parts to be like too exposed, but these transistors that are sticking out are pretty well protected by the LEDs, and the LEDs are pretty visible. And all the writing on the component side is visible. Good, peaceful cat. This doesn't really fit in the, you know, the vice's groove or anything, but it does hold it well enough. So now it feels like playing with an abacus. I think I'm feeling slightly less obsessive than I was on the last stream. I think that's lined up enough for me at the moment. I'll double check it before I actually start soldering, but that seems good. I'm like mostly lining them up with the bottom layer of resistors now. I was so enamored with the idea of like living in a kind of big warehouse thing full of kind of crazy artist people, and I tried to make that work, but the particular people that I chose or ended up with just weren't really gonna work out. And now I feel like exactly the opposite about that situation. I still like the kind of industrial space, but it's just really nice to have something that is more private and more partitioned and less just kind of completely chaotic. I have to keep checking that I didn't mess up my completely aligned resistors. I'm not putting a whole lot of solder on it right now because I want to add more after cutting the leads just so I can create a smooth finish for purely aesthetic reasons. It's technically not quite as good of a solder joint because it's not as inspectable, but for an aesthetic project like this, I prefer that kind of a joint where it has a smooth finish like this one. Okay, so yep, the resistors are all right where I want them. Oh, I should have been on the microscope camera. I'm sorry. Let's have some giant resistors this Sunday. Also coffee. Oh yeah, the vise, in case anybody's wondering, is one of these. I think I have another one on the table here. Yes. It's a stick vise. I just recently got 2 of these for my shop, and they are so good that I just ordered 2 more because now I want some for my personal projects as well as some for my work stuff. And it's just very simple design. It's just a small vise that will hold grooved things or flat things, and is especially good when you're trying to get under a microscope or a camera or something like that. And they seem pretty well made. This one had a slight manufacturing anomaly where the 2 jaws were actually Loctited to each other, and there's a little bit of residual stuff from that, but I'll file that off in a bit. Just move this whole thing. Oh yeah, that capacitor also needs work, but I haven't aligned it yet. Nice one. In the chat, Justin said they totally could have named this Sick Vice. Nice pun, bro. I was a little overeager. I did not wait for it to heat up before shoving all that solder onto the iron. I should do some, well, I used to do these workshops where I would kind of try to teach like kind of some basic electronics and putting stuff together and writing code through the vehicle of doing those simple little LED light art doodads. And I want to do more of those. The main reason I haven't in a while is just haven't really had the social energy to do stuff that involves like really being around that many people. But I still want to do more of that, and I think that this microscope could be a pretty good addition to that kind of thing, because soldering is much easier to understand if you can show it at such a large magnification. Because, even if you don't need to see it this big in order to do it, when you get a better idea of how everything's flowing and, when, the sequence of events, like, using a little bit of solder to transfer the heat and then adding some more solder and then watching the surface tension and the thermal characteristics kind of change as the process goes on. I might get a proper camera for my binocular, well, like trade in my binocular for a trinocular maybe, or try to put cameras in both eyes and have some kind of virtual reality reconstructed 3D circuit. That might be fun. Oh yeah, people, so overrated. I totally agree. I don't know, I've gone so back and forth, like, my family, huge hermits. Like, I mean, not so much my brother, since he's kind of more lately the craves to fit in sort of person, so he does all the mainstream, mostly religious social things. But my parents are, who I'm also not super close with, but they're total hermits. And so I was actually initially kind of put off by that, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to totally try this person, people thing. And to some extent I had, that was part of maybe what drove me to just kind of look for something that seemed more like community in San Francisco. Kind of went from the kind of LGBT community, kind of this complicated love-hate relationship with the Burning Man community. And then just really ended up feeling let down by the concept of community, and like, individuals can be great, but community seems largely like a recipe for either, kind of disappointment or brainwashing or something to that effect. Or maybe one then the other. Oh, let's solder these before we cut the others, just for consistency. Yeah. Yeah, building, there's a good comment in the chat, the DIY community is the only way, really, and I would agree with that. I think, yeah, I mean, the other people in my family have done the thing where they either have no community or they have this community that kind of, the sort of default easy community. But yeah, it does seem to be very hard to get that level of closeness, and when there's an illusion that it's happening quickly, then that's something I need to watch out for nowadays. So these days, I mean, I feel like I used to have this kind of sprawling circle of acquaintances when I lived in San Francisco, and that ended up kind of just going totally sour on me, and now I feel like I have a couple of friends that I'm really close with, but then I largely just spend more time with just me and Tuco, and I think that's been really therapeutic. Like, it's much easier to be around Tuco than humans. And it's been nice finding work that I can do from here. Yeah, I do. Well, before I adopted Tuco, I had, especially like the year or two before I adopted Tuco, which overlapped with the kind of difficult social situation of living in that crazy San Francisco house. I did a lot of traveling and kind of more social stuff and gave talks more, and and I still like that kind of stuff, but I think that contributed to this kind of social burnout a bit, and it was a good experience to have, but I think it was more something that I was doing in order to try it out rather than something that actually was sustainable. I wasn't really using that camera much, but let's keep it rolling anyway. Yeah, I do like the kind of rapport that I have with Tuco. I especially find it just so obvious how much of a, I think some people find it easy to dismiss animals as not having much of an intelligence or internal imagination. And I don't know, it just through my interactions with Tuco, it just seems so obvious that he has this really, kind of complex personality, and that he has, he has things that he's, scared of, and things that he dreams of, and I'm doing this in the wrong order, but. And then, I talk to people who just aren't that emotionally perceptive or haven't lived around animals or both, and they just don't see that. And I was one of those people before, because, like, my parents had a dog, I think, that died when I was really young, and so I never really had pets other than like a goldfish as a kid. And I think in hindsight that would have been really nice, because animals are really, really awesome. I like animals a lot. I feel like I'm playing a rhythm game where I just have to like alternate left and right hand. I'm a little fearful, you think? What do you mean by that? I mean, maybe I am afraid of people in some sense, because I do still feel like I was kind of burned by trusting people too much in a few different circumstances. But I don't really feel like it's, I think in some circumstances I'm afraid of interacting with people, but I think day to day it's more just like I can get my fill of kind of interaction with, with people at a distance, or with my cat close up, and that I don't necessarily need a lot of interaction with people I'm less close with in order to just keep myself going. Maybe some of it's just a realization that, that I don't really have to worry about becoming, the same kind of hermit that my parents are. I can become a totally different kind of hermit. And I mean, already, I feel like there's, I'm very used to putting stuff out on the internet. I've always posted my code and hung out on IRC and stuff like that, so. All right, those are soldered. Cool, all resistors are in. Oh man, the chat is getting a little too fast for me to read at the moment. I'm going to focus on this resistor, or capacitor. Since that's the only thing that's not like lined up right now. It's also kind of a little crooked. Let's see if we can straighten that. It's getting there. I think that's probably as close as I care to get it before soldering one side down. Tuco's getting some licks going. My two closest friends right now are both pretty introverty. I like hanging out with people that are really happy to just like make creative stuff on their own all weekend. Yeah, this is not easy to straighten with it held down. Well, maybe I'll just do that off camera and not worry about it. Try to get everything on camera, but sometimes it's just like, oh, I have to move everything to get this one tiny shot. And it doesn't really matter. That's much more satisfying. Now let's put it back in the vise. Hey, train. That kind of more sketchy place I used to live in, my room had no windows, and this place is all windows. I really appreciate the change. Oh, that's kind of a fun shot. Come on. That cat is having a good nap. What is left? Are we done here? I think this might be done. Let's power it on and then maybe clean it up. So based on the resistor values, so if these LEDs are roughly 2 volts and this is like 150 ohm resistors, it should be safe to power this thing off of like 3 or 5 volts from this little connector. I have these. I also have clips somewhere. Oh yeah, I hadn't actually shown these off. I was making an experiment. This was partially, I think, inspired just... So in this stream I have those little slides that play kind of at the beginning and the end of the stream with little scanline related images. So, you know, stuff like this. Some failed prints of bolts for Tuco and an old art project, and so just interesting stuff like that. And so one thing I thought about adding to that, I made these little 3D printed scanline tokens, and then I filled them with this kind of glow putty. It's like it's polymer clay, so basically plastic mixed with a binder that you can bake off, and then mixed in powdered glowing pigments. So basically, you know, like the stuff you'd find inside of highlighter markers, but in powdered form. And so these are straight out of the oven. They warped a little bit, but the plastic doesn't seem too bad, and it hardened the clay, the polymer clay. So I'm going to try post-processing these a little bit and see what kind of different looks I can get, maybe sanding the front surface and then coating them. I also want to try mixing, because this was 2 different colors, but they both have a pretty similar amount of fluorescence, which means that under UV light they just look kind of splotchy and weird. So I want to try maybe mixing like a darker color in there. So a little interlude, a little procrastination before I light this thing up. Let's turn on the power. There's that. Oh, let's try like 3 volts. Does that seem like a good starting point? I made 3.3 just because that seems like something I'm likely to run this off of. Alright, got 3.3 volts. Oh. Cat cam is a little misaligned, but I'm too far away to poke it right now. Let's turn down the current limit slightly just in case. Like 1/4 amp is plenty. Alright. So we've got ground on top. And because of those pull-up resistors, all of these LEDs should light when I power this. And it looks like that's what we got. So I'm going to turn these overheads off/down so we get a better view. Oh, I want to turn these down, but I also want to remember where the knobs are pointed right now, so I'm going to get some tape and label that. I really appreciate having analog dimmers on these lights, but that doesn't mean I can't just like tell them to save and record or save and reload their settings. So I'm going to try just using little strips of white tape. It's a really interesting shape, and my intuition with this, as for what to do with it next, is to make some kind of like 3D printed mount for it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll do that right away because I have a deep queue of projects and all, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting that there isn't really like an obvious up to the whole thing, so it might be kind of an interesting case for like a three-dimensional mount of some sort. Okay, 2 knobs labeled. I'm going to label 2 more knobs, and then I can turn the lights down. I mean, it's still going to be sunny in here, but I think most of that light is coming from the overhead lamps. Oh geez, somebody's asking in chat for my skills on the hoverboard. Yeah, maybe. I can try not to kill myself. I don't know what the state of its charge is. It's probably charged. I always feel like when I charge it, I need to have the thermal camera and the multimeter nearby. Alright, I think those are labeled. Oh yeah, that's getting better. Oh, that's the microscope. Yeah. That's not bad. In fact, I could probably even crank up the voltage slightly, because I'm sure this is fine with 5 volts too. I mean, each of these LEDs is running at less than 10 milliamps right now. We are still servo AF. Okay, yeah, at 5 volts, each LED is drawing 20 milliamps, so that's probably the highest voltage we should set it to, but that's nice and... Well, I was going to say, that's nice and bright. These are clearly very retro LEDs, because especially as I'm looking at them in person, they look pretty dim for 20 milliamps, but I think that's part of why I find these charming. Like, they're definitely not modern LEDs. They're LEDs that take me back to my childhood, which is kind of interesting. That doesn't look extremely focused. Let me try playing with the focus manually. All right, so while we have that view, the next trick this thing should be capable of is turning the LEDs on and off by grounding these inputs. And just to make sure that to kind of verify that the impedance is about what we'd expect, we could try grounding them through like a 100 ohm resistor. So I will grab one of those and an alligator clip. Clippy thing. Here's a clippy thing. this is like 120 ohms. So I'll plug that into ground. Try to get that in the shot. That's pretty fun. So these are all nice logic level inputs that we can hook up to other circuits when we feel like it. Let me see if I can do that without my hand in the shot. All right, well, I think that's pretty much it for this particular kit. This does look like something that there's opportunity to come back to later by extending it, adding new bits and pieces. But as it is right now, oh, I was going to give it a quick once over with an alcohol swab just to get some flux residue off. So let's do that before we call this completely done. But yeah, it does appear to work, and this is the Cordwood puzzle all puzzled out and assembled. Got our straight through wires bringing the data signals between the two boards. The kind of brown resistors are current limiting resistors for the LEDs. The blue ones are pull-up resistors for the logic inputs. And then each LED has a little matching transistor that acts as a logic switch. And then we have a little decoupling capacitor just for tradition and in case you have high-speed switching. And these little crossed wires bring power from one board to the other. And little hexagons indicate that there are 6 LEDs. That's what these are for. All right, let's get some more light and do a little cleanup. So, this isn't going to be like right away, but I'm going to have a short intermission to maybe make some more coffee and do a little bit of setup. But I do still plan on doing another stream after this today where I do kind of more software-y stuff. Instead of soldering together kits, I will be basically trying to impersonate a USB debug adapter so that I can use some software to disassemble some unknown firmware. I really don't like the encoder wheel focus on this lens. It's a great lens in every other way, but it would be nice if it had a physical thing that moved in order to focus. I think that would be nice. Even if it's not as fast, it would be more tactile. No fetch with Tuco right now, I guess, unless he wakes up from his nap right away. But he'll probably want to play later tonight. He seems to be more active in the evenings. And it is still 2 in the afternoon here. well, there it is. Boldport Kit, project number 3, the Cordwood puzzle. Fully puzzled out and cordwooded up. Well, thanks for joining me today, and maybe I'll see some of you later if it fits your time zone. Have a good day, and happy hacking, everyone.